want to test the waters. What are people thinking about this to start with? What are my students, what are they considering? What was this thing about? It doesn't have to be in great detail, but what is the general nature of this movement, right? And then, in order, the three most important figures, and they don't have to be all positive figures. It doesn't have to be all roses and sunshine, right? It can be someone that was controversial as long as they had a significance, and you can back that significance up, okay? So again, what was the civil rights movement all about? Who was involved and what did they want? And this is the main groups, okay? And then the three, who are the most important figures? Take just a moment and just jot down your ideas there. What are some of the values of doing this at the outset? What do you see as the purpose of this or the value in this? Yeah.
Basically a formative assessment, just to see what they, they essentially know from the get-go. Because, second question is, obviously students probably they'll have a general idea of everything, whereas the third one, where they have to name important figures, I wouldn't be surprised if most of them put name three people.
Yep.
I could see them pick two people, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X.
Maybe.
That'd be it, probably.
Maybe. That's right. And so what you're doing is it not only serves as sort of a point to look at perspective, it also serves as a diagnostic assessment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you get a sense of it at the very beginning. And that's what Mike was saying a second ago, was it serves as that sort of preliminary assessment to see where they stand. For us as teachers, aside from that, it is also allowing us that sort of baseline point to see if we can grow their sense of perspective. Because what we're going to do as teachers, what you're going to come back at the end of this experience and ask the same questions with a couple of additional ones asked. But we're going to be able to look and collect. And it doesn't have to be done. This is done through SurveyMonkey. So you could use this as a teacher and create it and just copy it for every one that you do and have, in essence, the same questions, right? And just retitle it. You can do it through SurveyMonkey with access to technology. I know, Julie, we talked about access to technology being an issue sometimes. You can do this on a note card, right? You can have them on the line side of a note card respond to these two, and then when it's over on the back side, on the unlined side, you could have the students respond to it on the back side of the card, and then you just have the front and the back, so to speak, to see where they are, right? And maybe have them label it A and B so that way you know. But regardless, you can collect this in any way you want, but the idea is that we're establishing a sense of perspective, and what we're now going to do is try to get them to look at, not change perspective. And that's the issue, is this is not about changing a perspective. It is about adding the idea of perspective to sort of their sense of the topic, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Because it may be that they are firmly convinced of this, and they look at all the documents, and they may not change. We're not trying to force them to think a certain way. We're simply asking them to look at it and then have a evidence-based reason for having that perspective, right? Rather than just going on what their perception is. And as Mike said, if nothing else, maybe we'll get them to see that more people were involved, and it's not just one or two or three people, that maybe it's about something bigger.
So is there a right or wrong answer?
Not necessarily to these questions. It'll come down to in the discussion, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but in the discussion as to why they choose that person and why things may have changed, that may be more the right or wrong answer if they're not using it and pulling out documents to support it, right? So as you see, what we've got is we've got this sort of testing the waters here. So when we go back, you go to the next part. This is where we begin to look at perspectives, right? The key to a 360 approach. So you take this one. I'm using this as an example, but if you're utilizing this in your classroom and you choose another topic, right? For instance, the American Civil War would be a topic that students would have at least a general knowledge of that you could build on. They may not know specific things, but have a general background knowledge. You could use the American Civil War. What do you notice about the document sets that we've chosen? We've got Eugene Allen. Who's Eugene Allen? That's right. He's the real person that was in that the film The Butler was about. Had served during a time of a lot of racial turmoil in the White House with something like 8 presidents or something. And so really was around a lot of things socially. So interesting perspective. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Jackie Robinson, the Freedom Riders, George Wallace, Nelson Rockefeller, and John F. Kennedy. Okay? So what you have here is what do you see? Tell me what you see here with these with these source sets.
A variety of different ethnic backgrounds.
Variety of ethnic backgrounds, different, just different. Political views are different. So, for instance, you have Malcolm X on the one hand, and even within the same racial or ethnic group, you have Jackie Robinson, who was a member of the Republican Party, right?
Freedom riders are multiple people.
That's right. So you have a group that, and so trying to see the way what we're trying to do, and that's the key. In using a 360 approach, what you're attempting to do is pull as many different perspectives. And so for you as the teacher, the methodology is already laid out for you. For you as the teacher, the challenge comes in the sources that we choose. And again, I say sources and not readings, because we're going to use the same techniques, literacy techniques, to view a lot of different resources. So for instance, and that's the key here also, is to provide some variety. Let's take a look at what we have with Martin Luther King, for instance. When we pull up the sources here, you'll find that with Martin Luther King, we have a version of the I Have a Dream speech that he gave the first time on record, that we have him delivering the speech that he eventually delivered in Washington, D.C. on the March on Washington. He delivered it in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And there's actually an audio of him doing that, of delivering that speech. He also wrote a letter to the black college student called After Desegregation What?, in which he argues for the principles of not just desegregation, which he saw as a small step, but full integration, which he saw as the larger goal, right? And talks about how do we go about doing that. So here you have an audio file and a document, a primary source document that you can use to look at Martin Luther King. Now, why do you think I chose these two rather than a video of him delivering the I Have a Dream speech? Well, not only that, that's part of why we're choosing different formats, is to help students or for just students to learn how to use different sources, not just dealing with learning styles, but also to help students with different, help them look at different sources and realize they're accomplishing the same thing.
Different perspectives of different people, but then within each person, different perspectives on what they believe.
That's exactly right. It's the idea that we are trying to get them to look not only differently at the whole issue, but even look differently at the person. So, for instance, what do you think we're going to use for Jackie Robinson? Let's go to him next. What do you think we would use for Jackie Robinson?
The telegrams to the White House?
Yeah, well, we've got the telegrams, but one of the things that most people say, well, comments about or interviews Jackie Robinson gave about being the first African-American baseball player in the major leagues, right? That's what people always say, because that's what Jackie Robinson is known for. They don't know Jackie Robinson for being the political activist that he was. And so what we're using with him, rather than using something related to baseball, which is what people all the time want to do, we're using the telegrams that he sent. One to JFK, and I think I've shown you this one before. One to JFK, where he's arguing, look, you've got to give some protection to Martin Luther King. This man cannot be assassinated at Medgar Evers' funeral. You got to take care of it. And he talks about the importance of Martin Luther King there. But again, he's telegramming the White House. And then another one to President Johnson, talking about what's going on in Alabama with all the riots that are happening in Alabama and the way that the president needs to respond and take action, not to sit back. And so here you have him telegramming two different presidents, asking them to take action. All right? So what I'd like for you to do is take just a minute or so, and I'd like for you to look through the documents. And there's some of them are video files, some of them are audio files, but take a look at these documents. And just begin to see how they might help you change your perspective. So take a few minutes right now and do that.